What's up, guys? Kyle, the Main Event McGee here, finally back with Wrestling the Past. A couple years overdue now. I've had a few people messaging me over the last 2-3 years asking me, hey, when you bringing the podcast back? Hey, when's Wrestling the Past coming back? Obviously, those are people close to me, but here we are, finally back. Life's been busy the last couple years. My wife and I started a family. Went back to school, working full-time, obviously, so been very busy. Never really felt like the right time. I wanted to start this back up at the beginning of the year and kind of do a year of Cena leading into his final year of wrestling and kind of cap it all off at the end of the year. Obviously, it didn't work out that way, so no big deal. Life goes on, but this felt like the right time to bring it back. This felt like the right subject. I'm going to throw a little disclaimer out here before we get started. I know that there is a lot of complicated feelings about this man, but I'm not here to focus on that. Whatever negative, positive, however you feel about Hulk Hogan, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to dissect that. I'm not here to dissect his personal life, the mistakes he's made, the flaws he had. I'm not here to do any of that. So if you are here to see another IWC member bashing Hulk Hogan or Terry Bollea and saying all these nasty things about him and bringing up all the terrible things over the years, might as well move on, because that's not going to happen. If you want to feel a negative way about me for refusing to do that, that is fine. But I do not believe in doing that. If that is all I have to say about somebody, I'm just not going to say it. I have my own feelings about the things he said and did, but I am separating that from the person and the wrestler, and I'm going to focus on the wrestler today. So again, if you don't like that, that's fine. You don't have to watch, and you don't have to listen. That being said, we're going to be talking about Hulk Hogan today, who passed away last Thursday. I believe he was going to turn 72 later this year, 71 years old, so 1953 to 2025, and let me just back that up to make sure that I'm correct on that. But I do believe, so August 11th, 1953 to July 24th, 2025, so he was just a few weeks shy of his 72nd birthday when he passed away. Hard to sum up the legacy of Hulk Hogan, and I'm not really going to try and do that today. People can kind of have their own things about what they believe Hulk Hogan's legacy is. In my honest opinion, he changed the business forever. Whether you think that's in a positive or in a negative, he absolutely changed the business forever. Hulkamania was a very real thing. I know that he created, I'm not going to say he saved the business. I've seen a lot of people saying that. I know that's not fair. That's why I'm saying he changed the business. He revolutionized it. He changed the way, Vince McMahon changed the way that wrestling is watched and wrestling is viewed, and turned it into a spectacle. Now, whether you like that or not, it's up to you. But he created a big boom period in the 80s for the WWF and caused it to go national and eventually international on a scale that had never been seen like that before. And then after leaving and then going to WCW in the 90s, he created what I consider to be the second boom period in wrestling history when the NWO formed. You can say all you want about how the NWO was already forming without him. I do not believe without Hulk Hogan turning heel, the NWO would have been what it was, nor would WCW's popularity have boomed the way that it did, or wrestling's popularity in general. Speaking as somebody who was born in 95, my earliest childhood memories, to be 100% honest with you, other than family things, was October 1998, so I was a few months away from turning 4 years old, and it was the Ultimate Warrior's brief stint in WCW. I know, kind of crazy that at 3 years old I have a memory of that very brief stint, but I remember it was an episode of Nitro. I remember Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hogan at the time, being terrified of him, and the smoke appearing, Warriors in the ring, and then fights them off, and then the smoke appears again, and he's gone. And that memory's always stuck with me. And without Hulk Hogan, I don't know if that memory would have happened for me. And when I say that memory, I don't just specifically mean that memory, because obviously, yes, that specific moment would not have happened, but I mean just the wrestling memories in general from that age. I think my family got back into it because of how much it boomed in popularity at the time, because I think it had kind of waned before that for them. And we kind of got away from it after WCW folded, and then I got back into it in 2006, during, like, right after Survivor Series 2006, during the boom of John Cena. And the truth is, I got back into it because I already had that connection from WCW, and I'd always kind of had a brief interest in going back and watching. I'm a lifelong fan, and I don't know if I would be a fan today if it weren't for Hulk Hogan. So a lot of my fandom, truly is owed to him. I wore my Wolfpack shirt. This was the closest thing I had that was affiliated with Hulk Hogan. I think he might have worn this specific shirt maybe once, but I don't know for sure. I'd have to go back and watch. But yeah, I've got, so many different. Like, I remember my dad and I used to, we'd go to Blockbuster, and when I got back into wrestling in 2006, and we'd rent random stuff from Blockbuster. And I remember we rented the Roddy Piper DVD, and I was obsessed with Roddy Piper as a kid. And I remember on that DVD, you have the documentary, but it also had the main event of the first WrestleMania match. And I remember watching that and falling in love with 80s wrestling, and just realizing how incredibly popular Hulk Hogan was back in the 80s, and how big of a deal he really was. And it's just, you can go back and watch so many things. His match with The Rock, which I rewatched this past week from WrestleMania 18. I mean, that reaction, that crowd, that's still just one of the most captivating things I've ever seen. It gives me goosebumps every time I watch it, still to this day. Hi, Regina in the background. I mean, his matches with Warrior, I think his match with Warrior in WrestleMania 6 was phenomenal. I think his match with Macho Man, I know it gets a lot of hate as far as a wrestling match goes, but I go back and watch his match with Andre all the time. Just the crowd alone can make up for the lack of work rate in that match. And that moment at the end with the body slam and the leg drop is always worth it. If you ever doubt how real Hulkamania was, just go back and watch that. As a little kid, I pretty much only knew Hollywood Hogan. I had the WCW, I believe it was. So anybody who knows me knows my lifelong obsession pretty much with wrestling figures, collecting them, playing with them as a kid, so on and so forth. We had, I believe it was the original San Francisco toy makers, where they were like the LJN box. We had a Hollywood Hogan, but we also did have a Hulk Hogan, a red and yellow Hulk Hogan, WCW version, of course. And yeah, that's pretty much my only true recollection of red and yellow Hulk Hogan as a little kid. I don't remember, funny enough, I don't really remember watching red and yellow Hogan, but I have memories from when he was in the NWO, so clearly that stuff meant more to me. It wasn't until I was older that I kind of understood more about what red and yellow Hulk Hogan was about. And we even had the Wrestling Buddy, which, actually, let me pause this real quick. Alright, well, unfortunately, I went and looked and remembered of all the Wrestling Buddies that I have left. The old school Hulk Hogan one is one of the ones that got destroyed a couple years ago. I believe by one of my old dogs when I was still living at home. So, unfortunately, I don't have that. I was going to bring it out here and show it. I know we also had like the WCW version, like the NWO Hollywood one that would talk. And then, yeah, those spent a lot of years getting wrestling moves done on them for sure. But the point being, the Wrestling Buddy was one of the other red and yellow Hogan frames of reference I had. But then when I got back into wrestling, I started looking more into it, and I went back, like I said, I kind of fell in love with 80s wrestling. I went back and I watched the first several WrestleManias. I always loved watching Hogan's promo from WrestleMania 4 ahead of his match with Andre. Obviously, the Saturday night's main event moment with Piper's Pit, where that match got made official, is just absolutely incredible to this day. There's so many moments, like I said, with Hogan that I could talk about. And the funny thing, here's a funny one. So I used to backyard wrestle, for people who don't know, and my original character, and this is so funny because I don't think we ever uploaded a video where I did with this character, but my original character was a tribute character to Hulk Hogan. And this was right after TNA, he joined TNA, and I was still full-fledged Hulkamaniac, brother. And I made a character that, again, never made it to YouTube or anything like that, but I did a character named Bulk Hogan. And it was so funny because I remember my buddy Drew and I, we filmed videos for it, and we posted it to his personal YouTube channel back then, which I don't think you can find those anymore. I think they're long gone. But kids at school had seen it, and I was constantly being approached, asked to do my Hulk Hogan impression, which admittedly I don't think was very good, but it resonated with everybody. It's like, hey, you're doing a Hulk Hogan impression. That's fun. It was a lot of fun, and I did it purely as a tribute, like I said, because I was such a big Hulkamaniac back then. He had me like, just him joining, I was full-fledged out. TNA's better than WWE right now, which granted it was 2010 TNA, but it was also PG era WWE, so I mean, kind of in one out the other. But despite all that, I was excited for the majority of his time with TNA until I kind of stopped watching wrestling in general. Late 2010, early 2011, I kind of just fell off. But through that all, and then, him coming back to WWE, the infamous WrestleMania 30 promo, which I still think was just, what a moment. Absolutely hilarious with his Silverdome flub. But the moment itself with him, Austin, and Rock, just, I think will live on as an all-time great WrestleMania moment to kick off the show like that. And then the next year, the nonsensical NWO running in to help out Sting. But that's neither here nor there. Point being, without Hogan, it's hard to imagine me being a wrestling fan today. It's hard to imagine that a lot of people would be wrestling fans today. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would say, yeah, I always preferred Savage anyway. Not saying you did. I'm just saying, without Hogan and without the boom of the WWF, it's hard to say what wrestling would look like today. I'm not going to make it would still be in bingo halls comment, because that's not true, because that's not what it was like even before that. But it's hard to imagine what would have happened. Would another company have taken over? Would it ever have gotten this popular? I don't imagine the territories would have lasted forever with national television becoming more and more of a thing. It's hard to say what truly would have happened without Hulk Hogan. And we could be here all day discussing that. But I think at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, Hulk Hogan is going to go down as one of, if not the greatest WWE superstars of all time. Maybe not greatest wrestler of all time, but one of the greatest, if not the greatest WWE superstar of all time. He's one of the biggest names in wrestling history. He transcended wrestling and became a pop culture icon to where most people who've never watched wrestling could tell you who Hulk Hogan is and what he looks like. Could they tell you much about John Cena before he became an actor? No, probably not. Could they tell you much about Dave Bautista? Could they pick Randy Orton or Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns even out of a lineup? No. But they know who Hulk Hogan was. And I think that in of itself is kind of incredible, because wrestling, even at the height of its popularity, has always been kind of a niche thing. And he made it to where twice, which is just absolutely incredible when you think about it, twice within about 10 to 15 years, he made it incredibly mainstream and incredibly popular. I don't think we'll ever see another star like him. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But I do know I don't think we'll ever see another star in wrestling like him ever again. And I think that we as fans, all we should try and do right now, because this man is dead, we should try, if we can, to just remember the good things about him. And if you can't do that, I understand. but that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm choosing to do. And I want to do some of that right now. So I have 2 matches ready that I wanted to do kind of watch along style, because again, I could sit here and ramble on all night. I don't have a script going, so I don't want to sit here and ramble to you guys. I want to watch some Hulk Hogan, and I've picked 2 old school matches. I've picked one from a Saturday Night's Main Event and then one from a WWF Old School. It's from the Madison Square Garden. So we'll start with the Saturday Night's Main Event. If you want to watch along with me, that's fine. If not, just feel free to listen along at home as I watch and react to what I'm seeing, because I've seen neither of these ever before. So the first thing you'll want to do, and I'm going to turn the desktop audio on momentarily for this, you're going to go to Saturday Night's Main Event on Peacock. You're going to go to Season 2, Episode 3, and we actually get to start this one from the very beginning. So, like I said, go ahead and get Saturday Night's Main Event pulled up, go to Season 2, Episode 3, and once you've got that pulled up and ready, we will get started. And again, I'm going to play the audio so for those of you who aren't watching along, those of you who maybe just listen to this on podcast or whatever you might be doing, I'm going to play a little bit of the promo from the beginning here, because I love the old school Saturday Night's Main Event promos. And we're going to get that started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Watch along if you want to.
Hulk Hogan, you've got nowhere left to go. You've got nowhere left to run. And pal, you got nowhere left to hide.
Too.
Hulkamania!
So we're going to be watching Paul Orndorff versus Hulk Hogan in a steel cage.
Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, Mr. Wonderful. I like that idea, man. The Supreme Court of Professional Wrestling, the cage, man. Let it be the judge. And if a mere mortal man like Hulk Hogan goes down, let it be. But Hulkamania, Mr. Wonderful, will live forever.
Roddy! And now we see Roddy Piper being addressed by Jimmy Hart, talking about Adrian Adonis. So this was January 3rd, 1987. My God, this was 8 years before I was born. I was born January 24th, 95. Harley Race, so many old names. It's crazy. I don't think other than Jimmy Hart, we've seen a single person who's still with us. I'm not sure about Adrian Adonis, but I don't believe he is. Sorry if I'm wrong. Junkyard Dog. And it's funny because now we hear this, we still hear this Saturday Night's Main Event intro today. Some clips of Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper. Like I said, there's something about 80s wrestling that truly just does it for me. I love 80s wrestling. It's funny how I have so much nostalgia for an era that was before my time, but there's just something so nostalgic about watching the 80s wrestling. And like I said, to make it even more incredible, we're kicking off with a steel cage match between Paul Orndorff and Hulk Hogan. We've got Vince McMahon on commentary. And Jesse Ventura is still going on the Saturday Night's Main Events today. I wonder if Hogan exits the cage on this, is he going to tell us that it's BS, or is that just reserved for Damian Priest? And that blue bar steel cage, again, another thing that's really before my time, but it's so iconic. I love the look of it. As cool as the fence look is, and part of me prefers it, part of me doesn't. The blue steel bars is just such an iconic look, and also just the steel bars just look so much more painful and violent to me. This is actually my second Hulk Hogan cage match I've watched in the last couple of days. I went back and watched his WrestleMania 2 steel cage match with King Kong Bundy the other night, and we've got more Heenan and Orndorff here.
Refuses to be interviewed. Perhaps you can give us a little bit of the story. Let's go back to the time when, of course, Paul Orndorff, your man, betrayed.
What do you, wait. What do you mean betrayed? He didn't betray anybody. All he did was wrestle Hulk Hogan in Cleveland. He beat that man, he left him laying. And tonight, when he's done with Hogan, he's going to be left like an old
Actually,
newspaper.
went and watched it. I think it's the big event. The match that he might be referring to, where Orndorff turned heel afterwards.
The one they've been talking about for a long time. Hulk Hogan to meet and defend against challenger, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Back to you.
And the ultimate heel move here is Orndorff coming out to Real American. Obviously, he and Hogan were essentially partners before this rivalry started. Yeah, funny enough, now that I think about it, with the tag team match, because I watched the WrestleMania 1 tag team match as well. This is my third Hogan-Orndorff match I've watched in the past couple weeks. Just another great rivalry he had in the past. We got to have the neutral / babyface official, and then the heel official, of course. Again, this is my first time ever seeing this cage match, so I don't have any frame of reference for what it looks like. Let's hear from Hogan.
A long and winding road, as the Beatle put it so aptly in song, that leads you to this steel cage match. Your comment?
Well, Mean Gene, it has been a long road, brother, but I can promise you, it all stops here, man. All those Hulkamaniacs, they're ready for a new start in a new year, and this steel cage is a dead end for Mr. Wonderful.
All right, as we head into 1987, Hulk, last year you established
it's
yourself as the
Hogan
finest practitioner ever
34
in steel
here,
cage
looked every
competition.
bit of 45,
Why didn't
50.
you settle this feud with Orndorff earlier?
Mean Gene, the steel cage is the most brutal arena of human competition. It is the last resort, man, as Mr. Wonderful's about to find out.
I thank you very much, Hulk Hogan, heavyweight champion of the world. I've got to believe we're part of history in the making. Back to you, Vince.
You bet. History in the making here in Hartford, Connecticut.
I'm saying obviously the difference of the reactions for Real American for Paul Orndorff versus Hogan. Jesse Ventura even commenting that we've already heard the music. And there's just something, like I said, so nostalgic about this. And you got Hogan climbing the cage from the outside. I definitely know there's plenty of people that have done this, but I immediately get brought to Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher both doing that earlier this year. I always like that visual when the guys that are coming into the cage match climb over the top to get in. Absolutely insane crowd reaction for Hogan, and Orndorff, of course, on the attack. One of the things that Hulk was so good about, and which is crazy when you think about this from a fan's perspective, Hogan was 6'6", 6'7", every bit of 280 to 300 pounds, and he was so good at believably working from underneath and being the one selling. And Orndorff immediately trying to leave, but Hogan's not letting him. But you can have Hogan down and out the entire time, and he's just so believable with being the guy that's taking the butt whooping. But he's big enough that you've got that believable monster comeback, the Hulk up. I don't think it would have worked with anybody else trying to do that. The desperation there. So with this one, we've got the steel cage match between him and Paul Orndorff. Orndorff, obviously not even trying to pin him; he's just trying to escape. This might be escape only. Orndorff's already almost out. And the next one we're going to be watching, which I'll get that information for you guys so you can watch along with me if you want. After this, we're going to be watching the Desert Storm match from Madison Square Garden in 1991 against Sergeant Slaughter. Yeah, man, those retro filters on this camera footage too is just. You know what's crazy is we've got Hogan driving. Oh goodness, Hogan, he's got Orndorff upside down, hanging over by his stomach over the cage, and he's slamming his head while he's upside down into the cage. That's actually not something I think I've seen. Nah, sorry, this is the third cage match now that I think about it, because I watched the house show footage steel cage match of him and Sting, which actually, truthfully, is Hogan's choking Orndorff with a headband. If you want to look something up, go on YouTube and look up Hulk Hogan or Hollywood Hogan versus Sting steel cage match. It's from a house show, so it's fan footage. It's actually a really good match, especially for, you know, the matches that we've seen from those two more often than not. I feel like if that was the match we got at Starrcade 97, people would look back on that event very fondly. It is interesting going back and watching these old cage matches because there's not the... I feel like in today's day and age, fans are conditioned for what's the high spot off the cage going to be. Whereas in this era, not so much. There was more about locking the two competitors in. You've got a more grueling, taxing match than you have a high spot match. Not that I think there's anything wrong with that. Like I mentioned, Fletcher and Ospreay earlier. I love that match this year. But again, just a completely different style of steel cage match here at this time. And they're both desperately crawling to the door. Hogan ducking these elbows. Nope. Hogan's up. And obviously Orndorff is terrified now. Hogan pulling him down, going to town. And of course, Heenan locking the door so Hogan can't get out. Heenan was just as good of a rival for Hogan as anybody he actually faced in the ring. They played so well off of each other. And I loved how almost anybody Hogan faced in a big match in the 80s, Heenan was right there. And you know what? Fans never got sick of it. They loved it. It always worked. They got sick of Heenan, but in the way they were supposed to. Yeah, this is definitely the more old school style. You're seeing a lot more strikes, a lot more ground and pound than you are big moves and high spots. It feels like you're watching two men fighting. And like I said, Hogan's facial expressions, his selling in general, I think is incredibly underrated, especially for, like I said, how big he was. Another funny little factoid for like myself as a fan. So when I first got back into wrestling was when Jakks Pacific was still making the wrestling figures, and the Classic Superstars line was a big hit with me. And I remember going to Walmart one day and they had and I thought it was wild. I didn't know what the look was. Found out years later it was from No Holds Barred. But the blue and white Hulk Hogan. Let me see if I can pull up a picture. Trunks. But it was like the blue trunks with the white knee pads. Hulk Hogan. Let me see if I can find it again. My phone's being a little weird right now. Oh, they're both climbing over the sides. Saw this with Batista and Taker. Are we going to get a tie? Oh, we might have gotten a tie. Oh, and that's hence the 2 refs. Okay, I see now. And we've, of course, got the 2 refs conflicting. Danny Davis is declaring Orndorff the winner. You got the other ref claiming the other guy the winner. So we're going with the dusty finish. Oh, and we got some ref beef now, too. Okay, I found it. Let me see. Yeah, so this is the one I'm talking about. So I got that as a kid, and I became obsessed. I thought it was, still to this day, I probably would feel that way, but it was, to me, like, the coolest wrestling figure I had at the time. And I, like many kids, had my own Fig Fed, and when I tell you that Hulk Hogan ran it, I mean that Hulk Hogan ran it. And the match is a tie, so obviously this feud kept going. Oh, and we're going to keep the match going. Okay. So both men have to get back in, and we're going to restart this match. But again, it's a fun little fact, just a interesting fact about me and my fandom when it comes to Hogan. I always thought that was the absolute coolest. I believe Mattel might have come out with a like an Ultimate Edition version of it, but I think it comes with the Zeus from No Holds Barred, which is hilarious. Both men getting back in the cage. I kind of like that. That's a good use of the escape finish, getting the tie and forcing them to restart. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the escape finish, personally, just because I almost feel like it defeats the purpose. I feel like that should be a forfeit if you try to escape the cage, but I know it creates some dramatic moments. So I mean, as a kid, I'll admit I absolutely loved it when they did it with Batista and Undertaker. They did the tie, and so I get it. Vince excited about Danny Davis being carried to the back. Orndorff just continuing to work over Hogan here. You know, it's so bizarre. It still feels so surreal to me, to say that Hogan is gone. Like, I know he was in his 70s now, so I mean technically it's not too surprising, especially the years of abuse he put his body through. But it still is a very surreal feeling. One of those days where it's like you always knew it was gonna come, but you never really thought about it too much. I really did appreciate the tributes as, oh, here we go. He's about to Hulk up. I know a lot of people hate it, but watching him Hulk up never gets old to me. Watching Hulk Hogan Hulk up is never going to get old to me. And here comes the big comeback. And anybody who thinks, I'm not going to say he's a 5-star Matt Classic wrestler, but anybody who thinks Hogan was not a good worker does not understand what it truly means to be a worker. I think Hogan was spectacular at what he did. Was he rams Orndorff into the steel cage. This truly is. Yeah, see that the blue bars. I don't know. I just almost think that looks more violent than running headfirst into the basically what is a glorified fence with today's cage. Just makes it look absolutely brutal. And Hogan, you know, we're just putting the absolute work on Orndorff here. Of course, Jesse thinks he won the match earlier. It's actually crazy with this being the 80s that Orndorff's not a bloody mess at this point. Oh, a big backbreaker. I figured he was going to go with the body slam there, and here comes the leg drop. And you want to talk about why that man had spinal and back problems. Yep, and he is bleeding. But you want to talk about why Hogan had spinal problems? He's a 300-pound man jumping up and landing on his tailbone, 300-plus nights a year for however many years he did that. It's no wonder he had spinal issues towards the end of his life. Orndorff's trying to climb out now thanks to Heenan getting in the cage again. Heenan works so well with Hogan and vice versa. Atomic drop to Orndorff, and now Heenan into the cage. Oh my God. He got some air on that one too. And Hogan's going over the top. Orndorff crawling towards the door, but he's going to be too late, and Hogan retains. That was a very good old school cage match. Orndorff gets out of the cage just too late. I really and truly did enjoy that cage match from start to finish. And Hogan's going back in the cage now. Oh, he wants Heenan. He wants Heenan, and that crowd is on their feet at the thought of him getting Heenan. And a big right hand to Heenan. What a pump from Heenan, my goodness. It's not a manager, that's a weasel. Atomic drop, and Heenan flies out of the cage into Orndorff's arms. Really fun old school cage match, and they're going to show the side-by-side of them landing. Let's see, can they make this believable that they landed at the same time? Oh, okay. So according to Jesse Ventura, as Hogan poses, because Hogan must pose, Orndorff should have won because Hogan's knees were still bent, even though his feet touched, and Orndorff's legs were straight. Very fun old school cage match. So we're going to cut that one off there as Hogan continues posing for the crowd. We're going to cut that one off there. That was a really fun cage match. Like I said, I'd never seen that one before personally, but I thought that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Next up, we're going to watch the infamous WWE Old School, the Desert Storm match between Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter. It's from June 3rd, 1991. So what you're going to want to do is go to WWE Old School, and you are going to go to Season 17, Episode 2. And once you get that pulled up, you're going to go to where I'm at right now is 1 hour, 31 minutes, and let's do 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 20 seconds. So you'll go there, and then when you are ready, we will get started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't know if anything beats going back and watching some... Oh no, my internet connection. Don't do that to me. Technical difficulties here, folks. If you are still watching, please pause it for me as we get back up and going. All right, I'm at 1 hour, 31 minutes, 31 seconds. Let's see if it'll play. Here we go. It's loaded. As I was saying, sorry for that, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing like watching some old school WWF inside Madison Square Garden. Here comes Sergeant Slaughter. I believe I read that they had, over the course of the summer, that Hogan and Slaughter had 18 different Desert Storm matches, which is just insane how much they worked back then. Also just unreal looking back on it. And even at the time that they did this angle with Sergeant Slaughter, the Iraqi sympathizer, just such a bizarre choice to take such a real life situation and take a national hero from, you know, with G.I. Joe and everything and turn him into an Iraqi sympathizing heel. Whew. Especially if you watch like the Sergeant Slaughter documentary about it and what that was like for him. I'm curious to hear this pop for Hogan. Yep. Pretty good reaction for Hogan. Oh, and there he is with the infamous match. Or the infamous mask, I should say. I've always seen the pictures of it. I've never actually seen him, like seen the footage of him where he's actually in the camo gear and has the mask on and everything. Hogan throwing the belt up in the air and catching it. He's got powder already. We're starting off hot, huh? Powder to the eyes of Sergeant Slaughter immediately. My goodness, we're starting off hot with this one. Oh, and a belt shot to the head immediately. Wow. And now Hogan's got Slaughter's... He's got Slaughter's military helmet. So I have gathered this is going to be a violent match, especially for the time period. And I think Slaughter might already be busted open. I'm not sure what that is he's whipping him with. It almost looks like a... some kind of pipe, it looks like. It's a very skinny pipe, though. Maybe that was a crowbar. Oof. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that headbutt with that mask on of Hogan's looked pretty stiff. Obviously, I doubt it was. It was Hogan. Hogan's, I think, was one of the safest workers ever, but just having that mask on it made it look stiff. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's ever held a crowd in the palm of their hands the way Hogan did for so many years. And I mean, you got to think, this is 91, so this is 6 years after the first WrestleMania, and he's still popular at this level. And obviously, Hulkamania would start waning over the next few years, and by the time he got to WCW, especially the WCW crowd themselves were really sick of it. But it's just incredible how much longevity he had out of this run and out of this character, and how he was able to continue making it work and continue holding crowds like this. I'm very, very shocked to see a violent match like this starting off with Hogan in so much control. I figured Hogan would be fighting from underneath, but no, he's demolishing Sergeant Slaughter right now. I'm sure that his time's coming, though. Oh, bypassed the actual turnbuckle pad and threw him straight into the post. Got the USA chants, which is funny because we technically have two Americans in the ring together. Hey, I just saw the Hulk Rules, the Hogan Wrestling Buddy that I talked about. It's also so funny, like it says a lot to his popularity. His Slaughter's busted open. Hogan was choking him with a flag. Hogan did so many heelish things in the ring and in his promos sometimes. And the fans just loved it anyway, which is why, like, looking back on it, it's so funny, like, him turning heel was jarring because, man, when you watch the way he worked, him as a heel made perfect sense. It's just he worked from underneath so much. And yeah, we're not too far into this one, and Hogan is just battering Sergeant Slaughter. Okay, now that I see a closer look at that mask, it definitely looks a little bit more like flimsy plastic when I saw it from further out. It made that headbutt look stiff, but getting a really close look at it, it looks like some flimsy plastic. Oh well. Still a cool visual, especially for such a different look for Hogan back then when you're used to seeing the red and yellow. Big elbow. Looked like a clothesline, but it was definitely an elbow. Man, Slaughter is wearing a crimson mask. This is insane to watch, as we've got Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan on commentary. I think there's a third voice, but I'm not sure. I don't have the audio too loud, so can't fully hear. Hogan's biting him. Like I said, so many heelish tactics from Hulk Hogan, and the crowd just loved him for it. And slingshots him into the buckle. Sergeant Slaughter with some really good selling as well. General Adnan. Ringside. Oh, and Slaughter got him with that crowbar and some eye rake. No, but Slaughter keeps trying to fight back, but Hogan's just absolutely wailing on him. I would have thought that crowbar to the stomach would have done it, but I guess Hogan's got some protective layers on. Also, one thing I'm noticing is Hogan is like almost Hollywood Hogan tan here. He was always a pretty tan guy, but he's almost like Hollywood era tan. I know it's such a random thing to comment on, but it's always been so funny to me how absurdly tan Hogan got during the Hollywood era. He was probably the tannest human being on earth during the Hollywood Hogan run. Slaughter's got his canteen off his utility belt now, and he's using that to batter Hogan now. Another thing I loved back then, I love we don't get it enough in general these days with the unique looks of the rings. Everything's pretty, standard. I love the blue ring skirts. I love the blue mats. Like I loved the look of the old school ring. I love the red, white, and blue ropes. I love the retro logo of the WWF. Like I said, I have a lot of nostalgia for this era, and I think that Roddy Piper has a lot to do with that, to be 100% honest with you, but I think Hogan plays a huge part in my nostalgia for this era. Hogan, Macho Man, Piper, those three guys as far as nostalgia goes for me. Them, Sting, Flair, I mean, they get my nostalgia going more than anything. And there's that Hogan selling again. The way he reaches to the crowd. That's one thing I love about his selling. The way he reaches to the crowd, he tries to pull them in with it, like he's reaching out to them for help. He's so good at getting sympathy. And he's this huge guy, like, and he's getting sympathy like that as he's getting whipped by Slaughter's belt. Yeah, this is definitely you're not getting a 5-star Matt Classic of this one. This is a violent fight between these two. My goodness. I think that's actually one of the things Hogan arguably did best was that violent fight style. I think he's, in any match I've seen of him that's like that, I think he's always done really good with it. I really don't know who that third voice on commentary is. I know it's Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, but I have no idea who the third voice on commentary is. Very interested to see if we'll find out before this episode ends. And Hogan's trying to get up as Slaughter's got the chair from Adnan. Hogan's starting to try and fire up. Taking their time, letting the crowd react to the moment. Oh, and he couldn't. Slaughter falling over backwards from the chair. He's so woozy from the blood he couldn't hold it up overhead for long. And now Hogan's got the chair. And they had that soft cushiony side, so they flipped over to the other side. And I can tell you from doing backyard wrestling, that side that the chair is got the grooves for you to fold it out, it does not feel good when that hits you. Called it a neck breaker, but that was a Russian leg sweep there by Slaughter. Who is that? Got a brief glimpse of the person that's next to them, but I cannot tell who it is. I'm done worrying about it. Yeah, just what an incredible career, what an incredible legacy that this man is leaving behind. And like I said, we're 7 years into Hulkamania at this point. He won the WWF Championship for the first time in, what was it, January of '84, December of '84? When did Hogan first win the title? I feel like it was... I know it was in '84. But I can't remember if it was towards the end of the year and then it led into WrestleMania. January 23rd, 1984. So yeah, it was a full year before WrestleMania, and that's what I thought. So yeah, 11 years and 1 day before I was born. Fun little fact. And here we are, at this point, 7.5 years later, and he's still on top, still has the crowd in the palm of his hand. The closest thing I've seen to it since was Cena. I mean, truthfully speaking, when it comes down to the longevity like that, you could say Roman, but Roman didn't really start getting the crowd in the palm of his hand till the heel turn, 2020, 2021. This is interesting to see. Sergeant Slaughter, another big man in his own right, going up to the top rope. There's no way Hogan's not going to get him down, right? And the blood all over the shorts. Oh, and Slaughter's hung up upside down. He lost his balance from the blood loss. Looks like there's a American flag in the ring. I wonder if Hogan's going to use that at some point to... I think that's the bandana, actually. And Slaughter's trying to go back up. Yeah, I can see why this is considered... I've not seen the other ones, but I can see why this is considered their best Desert Storm match. Nice chop to the throat, and Hogan gonna military press launch him off the top. My goodness, that's a big bump for a man that size. I'm sure to a lot of people, this kind of match doesn't hold up today because it's too slow. I think wrestling today has changed. It's evolved. Guys are a lot more athletic now. It's so much faster paced, but double clothesline, big double down, right as I talk about it being a slower paced. But I think the pace of this match really fits with what they're doing. I mean, you can, if you're in this kind of a fight for this long, you in theory, especially if you're bloody like Slaughter is, you've got to be, running pretty much on empty at this point. I think in some ways I prefer the faster pace of today's day and age, but at the same time, there's times where I kind of wish things would slow down a little bit, let each individual moment mean more instead of going for the next. Slaughter's taking the boot off. I don't know if is it a loaded boot? Looks like Hogan might have something as well, though. Oh, the fireball. Ooh. Way better than the one he tried to throw at Warrior at Halloween Havoc, that's for sure. And he's tearing the camo shirts. Not tearing as well as the Hulkster shirts do, but hey, still got it done. Ducks the boot, and I literally mean the boot being swung at him in a big clothesline. And now Hogan's got the boot. And Slaughter's looking to beg off. Oh. See, and now they're moving so much faster than you'd expect guys their size to be moving, especially compared to how they move. See, that's the thing. They picked it up when they needed to. I love that. Hogan with the camel clutch. So interesting to see Hogan locking that in on somebody. Here comes Adnan, and Adnan throws in the towel, and that's the match. Wow. Another really good match, I think. Of course, Hogan was powder to Adnan as he tries to run in the ring. Slaughter still never gave up. Slaughter never gave up. Adnan gave up for him, and Hogan's going to take care of General Adnan now. Chucks him over. And he's got to dump Slaughter out too, because Hogan must pose. Man. Two really good matches, I think, personally, that we hopefully you watched along with me today. If not, that you heard me watching as we see that Hulk buddy again, that wrestling buddy. We got a kid in the ring. Is that Nick? Is that Nick Hogan in the ring? I can't tell. I don't know how old he would have been at this time. I don't know if that would have been Nick Hogan or not. I don't know. I don't think he would have been old enough at the time for that to be him. So it must have been somebody else's kid, I'm guessing, because how old is... When was he born? Yeah, I didn't think so. He wasn't even a year old at the time. So that must be somebody else's kid. I didn't think that made sense timeline-wise. Yep, and Hulkamania is alive and well. Back in 1991. So many of those wrestling buddies in the crowd. Play the audio from this for a second.
And the World Wrestling Federation champion,
as we finish this off watching Hogan pose here, again, I can just say that that was really fun to go back and watch those tonight. I don't think there's enough I can say about the life and the legacy of Hulk Hogan. I don't think I can put it into words. I don't think I will ever be able to do it justice. Whether you loved him, whether you hate him, this man changed the wrestling business forever. He's the reason a lot of us are watching today. Whether you watch AEW, WWE, New Japan, Ring of Honor, TNA, CMLL, whatever you watch, I'd guarantee your fandom, if you're a U.S. wrestling fan at least, can probably be attributed to Hulk Hogan. I know mine can. Yeah. As I said, as a fan, it's very surreal. It's a strange feeling. Like I said, a day I always knew was going to come. I mean, he's in his 70s, but not something I was expecting this past week. Not something I was expecting anytime super soon, with how much he had been prepping for, Real American Freestyle and all that. But I hope he can be remembered for the good. I hope that can be his legacy. I think he did a lot of good for the wrestling business, at least. And I'm sure there's some negatives you can point out that he did for the wrestling business as well. But from my perspective as a fan, I think he did a lot of good stuff for the wrestling business. I think he left a lot of great memories, a lot of great moments. Memories and moments that I as a fan will cherish for the rest of my life. Without Hogan and the NWO, I don't think I'd be a fan today. So, at the very least, I owe that to him. So, this is my way of saying thank you, Hulk Hogan. Thank you, Terry Bollea. God bless you, and rest in peace. So, thank you all for tuning into this week's episode of Wrestling the Past. I'm not sure what we're going to cover next specifically, but next time we tune in, I should say, we're going to be covering something to do with John Cena, and we are going to try and close out the year doing the final year of John Cena. So a little bit more of a positive note in the next episode, but it's good to be back. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening to this as a podcast or watching it on YouTube, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.